Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augment Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 234 of the show, and before we get started, we're just going to do a bit of housekeeping quick as well. You guys know we like to do it around here, so it only makes sense that we do it, so let's just get on with the house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to download episodes, to today's episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel. Whether you like my stupid face or not, at the end of the day, it's greatly appreciated, and I greatly appreciate you. So thank you so much for, watching the video version on YouTube or listening to the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. Because, I greatly appreciate it at the end of the day. Because, to be honest, I wouldn't do this if you guys don't vote on the polls and stuff like that. Even though this week, just being honest, we did do a poll because there's kind of a big piece of news that came out this week that it only makes sense that we talk about it. And, so there's no need to do a poll when it's kind of like the biggest news right now. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We have, the prime reason of this episode is talking about new GPUs. So before we get onto that, Patreon backers, thank you for becoming supporters of the show. Greatly appreciate it. If you want to become a Patreon backer, click the link down below. And let's get on with today's episode because, spoilers alert, we're talking about the 4090. And primarily about what we know so far based off the review embargoes, because let's be real, I'm clearly not doing a review of the 4090. I don't have one. I'm not buying one. Yeah, there's no point in me trying to run benchmarks and things like that about a 4090 and stuff like that because, one, I don't have the money for it. Two, I'm not a reviewer. And three, my main job is just to commentate. But there are some things that we should talk about, especially after seeing some of these review embargoes go live, or I'd say some of the review embargoes being lifted, and now the reviews are going live before they go on sale at the time of this. At the time of this recording, it is not on sale. The reviews have been posted online, and obviously the day the episode comes out is when the 4090s go on sale. What are we going to talk about exactly? So we want to break down what has been shown and what were some of the concerns. So before we actually go into what was shown, let's actually talk about some of the concerns people had about the 4090 going into it. And let's break it down easily. Price, thermals, power draw. These are the three main issues that people had, aside from performance, which I could make the argument that people weren't necessarily worried so much about the performance. The cost was always a big issue. So that was a big issue, and that hasn't changed. That is still a recurring issue that people have with the 4090s. However, the concerns with thermal performance and the concerns with power draw, this is where, let's be honest here, as commentators and reviewers and people that were speculating about these graphics cards before they even came out, we were proven wrong. And I can admit that. I have gone on record and said that was some of my main concerns when thinking about the new 40 series cards was power draw and thermal performance. This was some of the claims that I had made that I personally thought, look, this card is going to be pulling probably 700 or something watts. It says 450 rated. It's probably going to pull a ton. We thought this thing was going to be a thermal juggernaut and just, run extremely hot. And spoilers alert, based on the reviews, yeah, both of these things got proven very, very wrong. These cards, specifically the 4090, we're not talking about the 4080s here because, we don't see anything about them. But the 4090 in this case, yeah, it runs at good temperatures. Like average temperatures on the Founders cards are showing around 80 degrees Celsius, which some people are like, isn't that a bit too high? Actually, for a card this powerful, that's actually very good temperatures. Like obviously some people would prefer to be in the 70s and stuff like that, but for a card like this, the fact that the memory temperatures are in the 70s and the overall temperatures around 80 or 82, that's really good. Like, I hope you guys understand, that's actually really good. And the power draw, here's where the kicker is in all of this stuff. The fact that the power draw on the 4090 is less than the 3090 Ti, and it is outperforming the 3090 Ti by around, and here's the crazy thing about performance. It's outperforming in just rasterization, or in this case, raw power, about 40 to 70%. That is the average range that we are seeing in most titles, where the 4090 is outperforming the 3090 Ti by a county mile. And this is obviously also including, say, like the Radeon 6900 and 6950 XTs. Personally, I have a 6900 XT. I recently upgraded to that. But the fact that the performance uplift was very drastic, the fact that the thermal performance is also very good, and the fact that the power draw, well, is actually less. It's running at about, well, based on hardware and box numbers, it's running around 525 watts under load, which that's actually running less and pulling less power than the 6950 XT and the 3090 Ti, which a lot of us thought that wasn't going to happen. And the fact that it is happening, well, is very shocking, jarring. It's like, what the heck is going on here, man? You know, like, it's one of those things where you don't expect it to happen, but it did. And this is where some people are like, okay, what's the big issue now? If the thermals aren't an issue, the power draw, then what are the issues that people really have? And the main issue is going to be pricing. Like, that is the issue that is going to be persistent. That is the issue that's going to stick, especially when we think about the current pricing for, you know, high-end GPUs from last generation. So 30 series and then the Radeon 6000 series. The fact that you can get a 6900 XT for $630 brand new is an incredible bargain. That is an incredible 4K graphics card, you know, for playing at 4K. Granted, you won't be playing at high frame rates, which that's the whole point of the 4090, is the fact that it now makes high refresh rate 4K gaming a viable option at high details. We're also not including DLSS 3.0. We'll talk about that a little bit later because more testing still needs to be shown off about that stuff. But the fact that the 6900 XT and 6950 XT, you know, specifically the 6900 XT, the fact that you can get that brand new for $630 brand new, and if you play 1440p, that thing's gonna chug through 1440p. The fact that, say, the 6950 XT, you can get that for a decent price too, yeah, you start seeing a lot of these values. And obviously, same thing with the 3090, the fact that you could buy a 3090 used off eBay for around $700, you can buy it new for around close to $1,000. Same thing with the 3090 Ti, the fact that you can buy it for around $1,100. This is where the price to performance ratio starts to become very icky, if that makes any sense, where it becomes very convoluted and challenging, because we can't just compare MSRP to MSRP, because then obviously it's going to favor the 4090 in this case. We have to compare about current values right now, which in this case, some of these high-end graphics cards from last generation are now much cheaper, much more affordable. And to be honest, for a lot of people, you're better off buying the older generation than spending the $1,600 for a 4090, because let's be real here. Well, yes, the performance uplift is insane. You're also going to be spending a ton of money. And this is where it leads into a whole lot of buyer psychology and things like that, like, or consumer behavior in this case. Like, why would you justify spending $1,600 on a high-end graphics card? You know, like, what is the justification behind it? And for some people, hey, they want the latest and greatest. They're going to buy it no matter what you do. And there's some people that are more price conscious. Like, well, yes, they see the performance, like, that looks crazy. They don't necessarily like that big price tag, because let's be real here, homie, that's still $1,600 without taxes. So you add on taxes, you're pushing about like $1,700, $1,800. So it's like, you start to see how this becomes more and more of an issue. And it's one of those things where I'm happy with what we're getting. I'm not saying that it's bad. I think from what we saw from the performance, the 4090 is an absolute demon. The fact that it makes 4K gaming at high refresh rates incredibly viable. The fact that based off early test results of DLSS 3.0 compared to 2.0, yeah, it's insane. The fact that the ray tracing performance is absolutely ridiculous in comparison to previous generations. Like, we're starting to see some of these things, like this more mature architecture for ray tracing. The fact that obviously the rasterization performance is off the charts. You know, based off early testing, DLSS 3.0 looks crazy. Depending on, now, here's what I say. I put an asterisk with that because we still don't have accurate testing about the quality and what exactly is happening inside of DLS 3.0, which we will see in time based on people's reviews. So make sure you're paying attention to those, because obviously we will be covering and talking about these things in due time in the respected order once they come out and stuff like that. But from what we have right now, the information, what's available, we can talk about some of these things where it's like, okay, if we're building a PC right now, what makes the most logical sense? Because think about it. We have the new Intel 13 gen is coming out, Raptor Lake. We have currently the AMD, the Ryzen 7000 series. We're still waiting for a couple weeks for the new Radeon RDNA 3 to come out. Obviously, we have the 4090 coming out, the day that this episode goes live, and then we're still waiting on the 4080 and stuff like that. Let's be real here. If you're going to buy 4080, skip the 12 gig model, save yourself the time and effort. Just focus on the 16 gigabyte model, because that is the real model you want to focus on. But let's ask that question. Why not? Should you buy and build your PC right now? To be honest, if you don't care about the latest and greatest, then yeah, you have great options already. Just give it a little bit, wait till the Intel processors go live, the reviews and stuff like that, and then just go from there, just go from there. But if you just want to focus on some of these last gen parts and really take advantage, because think about it, just because the 4090, 4080, the fact that the 7000 series, the 7900 and stuff like that, just because these new graphics cards come out doesn't mean the old stuff is garbage and that doesn't work anymore. It's like, no, the high-end options from last year are still going to be incredibly viable for years to come. Let's be real, the 1080 Ti is still a viable graphics card even in today's market. Granted, not for, ray tracing and stuff like that, but for just pure rasterization and good performance, it's still a viable option. You start to see how some of these older cards, they still hold their value. They're still great cars. They're not trash. They're not just oh, throw them out. Obviously, yes, we know the 4090 and the new 7000 series are going to outperform what we have right now available. The 3090, 3090 Ti, 6900, 6950 XT. The fact that we have all of this stuff, it doesn't mean it's bad, guys. It just means you're going to get a better deal. Because think about it, the AMD cards, the fact that you can get I know I keep going back to this, the fact that you can get a 6900 XT for $630, that is incredible value. That is a phenomenal graphics card. And if you already have an AMD 5000 series, processor, put them together, enable resizable bar, you're basically golden. You will have all the performance you will need. You'll be gaming, chugging along, 1440p. If you want to do 4K, you can. You have options. But this is where things get interesting, because we have to start thinking about the 4090. Yes, the 4090 is the current top dog of gaming. Now, we still don't know what's going to happen until the 7000 series comes out. So we just have to be mindful of that stuff as well. But at the end of the day, I'm very shocked. I'm glad that I'm wrong. Some people will say, I don't like being wrong. No, I'm glad that I'm wrong. I'm glad that the 4090 is running at great thermals. I'm glad that the 4090 is not pulling as much power and that it's just this uncontrollable juggernaut that just pulls as much power as it wants. No, I'm glad that this stuff is actually great. The problem is still going to lie with the price tag. That is the main issue people have with it. I know some people are arguing with me. Look, if the 4090 was at $1,000, I think that would be the best time to buy it, personally. I think for $1,000 clean, easy. I don't believe in this whole mentality that, oh, graphics cards should be in this, $1,500, $2,000 range. No. The fact that the 3090 Ti started at $2,000, no, I think that is terrible. I genuinely think that these graphics cards should, they should be around $1,000. I think $1,000 should be the most that high-end GPU should go, to be honest with you. I don't think they should go further than that. Maybe $1,100. I don't think pushing closer to that $1,500, $1,600 range is, you get what I'm saying? I don't think realistically that's how we should be pushing. It's not healthy for the market, because at the end of the day, yeah, I get it. These are high-end parts. These should only be for the enthusiasts, the people that want the best of the best. Yeah, I understand that. But they're also should be a limit to how much we are exploiting people, because let's be real here, making people spend $1,600 for a part for their PC. Like, think about it. $1,600 builds you a PC. You're spending that much money just to get a graphics card. Let that sit in. You are spending $1,600 without taxes. That is money that builds PCs for a graphics card. And you're gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, that's fine. No, it's not. Guys, let's stop being delusional here. We should not let this get out of hand. We should obviously be trying to push these suckers down in price, because let's be real here, if you let them exploit you now, they're always gonna exploit you going forward. So these businesses do not care about you. They're not your friends. They see you as dollar signs. If they find any way to exploit you, they easily will. Let's be mindful of that. But what are some other things to be mindful of when we're thinking about all of this stuff? Power supplies, the fact that they said your 850 watt is still great. I personally think you should have 1,000 watts. I think if you're gonna buy something like this, bare minimum, you should have 1,000. I think 850 should be, you can get away with it. I still think you're probably gonna be more comfortable at 1,000. I think that's fair and reasonable, to be honest with you. Like, I have a 1200 watt 80 plus platinum in my computer, but that's just because I got a good deal on it. So now the connector, that's another big issue people have. Obviously, people have been posting reviews about this. Jay2Cents posted a video about it when he was talking about his review about the 4090 and how NVIDIA was like, look, the connector's not that big of an issue. The fact that the bending's not that big of an issue. And Jay was like, actually, this is pretty big of an issue, especially because you have to bend this sucker. The fact that it's, you know, it's questioning the durability of the cable, the fact that it's hitting against your glass very easily. Yeah, like, there's some concerns here, clearly, with like stability, long-term, and things like that, which I think we'll see this as time goes on, especially with the durability of the cables. Do I think the cable is going to fail in anybody's lifetime of owning the card? Probably not, but you should also be mindful and careful. Like, be mindful of these things. Like, don't just be oblivious and pretend like, oh, I didn't know this was an issue. Like, homie, you know this was a concern going into it, so just acknowledge it, you know? But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you excited about what you've seen about the 4090? If you've seen anything about it, you know, are you going to buy one? Post in the comments down below if you are. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. At the end of the day, look, all of this is just discussion. At the end of the day, yeah, let's be real. NVIDIA is still not the best company to deal with. They're still kind of annoying and they're still kind of douche canoes. Let's just be honest here. NVIDIA is still a POS of a company. Let's just be real here. But we can acknowledge that, hey, they made a great product. I think at the price point, it's a bit too steep, but it's incredible for what we're seeing inside of it, to be honest with you guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you liked today's episode, you know, leave a like. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, hey, leave a review of the episode or leave a review of the show. I greatly appreciate it. I know this week has been, well, just being transparent with you, it's been a bit, you know, pretty bit hectic. You know, I gotta, if you're watching the video version, you got to see I had a little bit of blood drawn. I've been dealing with some weird health stuff, but you know, I'm feeling good. You know, I'm okay. I'm not in any danger or any harm. I greatly appreciate it. You know, I hope you guys are being safe out there. Continue to take care of those around you, because let's be real, the world is still a weird place, guys. Continue to be kind and courteous and respectful to those around you, and try not to do anything dumb. I hope you guys, you know, if you're going to buy a 4090, I hope you have a great time going through the launch. Based off what I've heard, stock is in abundance. You're not going to deal with scalping, if any at all. Like, to be honest, if you're going to get a 4090, you're going to get it pretty easily. Let's just be real here. You probably will. You'll probably be able to go inside of a store and get it day one if you want to. But hope you guys have a wonderful day and the rest of your week. And obviously this episode's finally live on a Wednesday. So hooray, we're back to our normal upload schedule. But be safe, guys. I love you guys to death, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.